Apparently some in the White House are getting fed up with the allegedly out-of-control Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. That is according to a recent Axios report, which quotes a White House official saying this: Bibi acted like a madman. He bombs everything all the time. This could undermine what Trump is trying to do. According to the report, 2 other U.S. officials added on, with one comparing Netanyahu to a child who just won't behave. Another who said, quote, "The feeling is that every day there is something new. What the bleep?" Now, some of Trump's supporters also becoming exhausted with Israel's campaign in Gaza, and they are voicing their opposition to it.
You may remember popular podcaster Theo Von got emotional back in May talking about Gaza and calling Israel's campaign there a genocide. Here's part of what he said then.
It feels to me like it's a genocide that's happening while we're alive here. You see all these photos of people, just children, women, people, body parts, just people like putting their kids back together. And I just can't believe that we're watching that and that more isn't said about it.
Over the weekend, actor Joaquin Phoenix of Joker and Gladiator fame went on Vaughn's podcast and praised him for speaking out. Take a listen.
I was really moved by something that you said when you talked about the war in Gaza. And I think that's really courageous. There's no justification for children starving to death in a conflict. Like, it's that simple, right? You don't have to understand geopolitics or anything like that just to get that.
Meanwhile, a longtime critic of the conflict, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is catching some flack from the left primarily for opposing an amendment to the Defense Appropriations Bill that would have stripped $500 million in defense aid for Israel.
That bill was introduced by Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene and had the support of AOC's fellow squad members, Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib. Ocasio-Cortez explained her reasoning on X, saying the amendment, quote, "does nothing to cut off offensive aid to Israel nor end the flow of U.S. munitions being used in Gaza. Of course, I voted against it. What it does do is cut off defensive Iron Dome capabilities while allowing the actual bombs killing the Palestinians to continue. I have long stated that I do not believe that adding to the death count of innocent victims to this war is constructive to its end."
That statement was mocked by journalist Glenn Greenwald, who replied on X saying, "During past genocides, I never voted to send bombs. I only voted to pay for their air defense so nobody could attack back. Ms. Working Class, forcing American workers to subsidize Israel when they have better healthcare and educational resources than her own American district."
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point. I kind of always want to be in the position of not being involved in what Israel is doing as just the starting position, that we have to spend so much on their defense. I would be, if they want to buy weapons from us, I have no problem with that. But there's no reason American taxpayers have to pay for their defense, particularly when then the Israeli government does not listen to the American government in terms of what its foreign policy is. I don't want to exercise control over their foreign policy, but I resent being dragged into the wars they're involved in and then forced to pay for them without any discussion or debate happening in terms of our own workings of our government. Our elected representatives are supposed to vote for a foreign policy that we can then hold them accountable for. We could vote them out of office. That's how it's supposed to work. And I am I am not at all pleased that whole process is eroded out of this total fealty to the Israeli government. Again, I have nothing against its people. I want us to be strong allies. I don't even really want to be involved in the moral calculus for whether their effort is worth it or justifiable. It seems to me that it's gone beyond what is justifiable, but they were attacked by this sadistic terrorist group on its borders. Unlike Joaquin Phoenix or Theo Von, I think it is a complicated issue, what you're supposed to do, but it is not my issue to work out, and it is not the American government's issue to work out, and that's where our foreign policy should begin.
So to start with the Netanyahu stuff, there's this report that we cited in Axios about how annoyed various White House officials are with him. Those reports have been one of the few common threads from the Biden administration to the Trump administration. Oh, people in the White House are really very, very cross with Netanyahu. They really can't believe what he's doing. And they never actually do anything about it. Biden paused one weapons shipment in the entirety of that time. I have, I think, a more vigorous opposition to what Israel has done than you do. Not that you're cool with it, but I mean, I think it is just appalling, and I think that the failure to stop it has been a really serious moral failure, not just on the part of the United States, but on the part of the West, generally speaking. Now, that's why I sort of take with a pinch of salt these, like, oh, we're really mad with Netanyahu. Okay, so what's next then? As far as AOC is concerned, I think that was a very disappointing vote on her part. Now, she has previously been criticised about, you know, was she too slow to call it a genocide and all of that. I think that issue you can debate. But this is Marjorie Taylor Greene, to be fair, a woman who I agree with on almost nothing, saying that they should pause this. And
she voted for that. Thomas Massey voted for that, and the other members of the squad voted for it. So it seemed weird that she didn't, and maybe afraid of some AIPAC coming after her type thing.
Or the media coming after her, or presidential ambitions perhaps in the future. But I
imagine voting to say that fewer American taxpayer dollars should be spent overseas and thinking that that would be a risky vote.
That's going to
In what district is that a risky vote?
I mean, I guess the argument would be, well, you're not being stalwart enough in support of Israel. You're abandoning them to their fate. But I mean, like you.
Only in mainstream media is that going to really count against you, where there's just the presumption that we would vote to continue giving money to another government, no matter what they do, under all circumstances. It is frustrating that the frustration never leads anywhere, I guess, in terms of the foreign policy being different. Netanyahu is really good at this, of kind of, you know, biding his time and getting the foreign policy back on track with what he wants. You know, Biden, and then it, you know, came to fruition at the very end of Biden, very beginning of Trump, the ceasefire deal, which he then kind of just
discarded.
Eventually, violated a little bit, then violated a lot, then totally ignored, and we tried to get that back on track. He dragged Trump. I mean, you know, you can argue about how much is his, how much Trump really wanted to do it. The whole Iran thing seemed somewhat orchestrated by Netanyahu. He then tried to claim that the whole discussion the U.S. was having with Iran was a diversionary tactic, which I don't think was necessarily true, and I think was him trying to spin it and make the U.S. feel like, well, now they were obligated to be participate in it, which is all very bad. And you know, standing up to that, that would be America first. It would be bipartisan. It would be bipartisan, and that would be loved by American people of all ideological stripes. But it just is hard to do.
I think, to your point, Netanyahu is an almost endlessly cynical figure, even by the standards of politicians or world leaders or whatever you want to term it. And it is worth saying, among the horrors that we're seeing in Gaza, we're now seeing people literally starving to death. I mean, 18 people in the past 24 hours. CNN, to its credit, did a very moving story about a 4-year-old girl who died on Sunday from malnutrition. Just absolute horror, and really just one of the great moral disgraces of our time.
Next up is comedian Jon Stewart on the chopping block. We will discuss that next. Don't go anywhere.